You know someone like this. They're kind, thoughtful, always smiling. The sort of person who never raises their voice, who apologizes even when they're not at fault. They believe in doing the right thing, even when it costs them. They are the ones who forgive quickly, give endlessly, and carry the burdens of others without complaint. You might admire them. You might even be one of them. They're the peacemakers, the helpers, the selfless ones. But hidden beneath their goodness, there's often something else. A quiet exhaustion, a subtle resentment, a deep confusion about why, despite doing everything right, life still feels so heavy. Why they're so often overlooked, dismissed, or even hurt by the very people they try to protect. Maybe it's your mother. Maybe it's your partner. Maybe it's you. They spend their lives trying not to disappoint anyone. They avoid conflict like a disease. They would rather stay silent than speak a truth that might make someone uncomfortable. And yet, for all their kindness, they are not at peace. They are quietly afraid. Afraid of being disliked. Afraid of being seen as harsh. Afraid of becoming what they've spent their lives trying not to be bad. But what if this idea of goodness is flawed? What if, in our attempt to always be kind, we've surrendered something essential? Our strength, our truth, our boundaries. What if, as Machiavelli warned centuries ago, those who try to be good at all times are destined to be destroyed by those who are not? This video is not an attack. It is a mirror. If you made it this far, something in you recognizes this pattern. Maybe in someone close. Maybe in yourself. The truth is, goodness without wisdom, without courage, without discernment, is not goodness at all. It is fear in disguise. And it leads not to peace, but to quiet suffering. Let's talk about that now. The world does not reward goodness simply because it is good. This is one of the most painful truths to accept, especially for those who have built their entire lives around being kind, generous, and morally upright. We are taught to believe that if we do good, good will return to us. That if we are fair, others will be fair. That if we are honest, we will be protected. But the world, as Machiavelli understood, is not built on ideals. It is built on power, on perception, on human nature, which is often selfish, fearful, and unpredictable. And so, the person who clings too tightly to goodness, who refuses to see the darker truths of the world, becomes vulnerable. They are taken advantage of, manipulated, discarded. Their forgiveness is mistaken for weakness. Their kindness becomes invisible. Their moral compass, once a source of pride, becomes a burden they carry alone. If this pattern is not broken, something tragic happens. They begin to disappear, not physically, but emotionally. They silence themselves so often that they forget how to speak. They give so much that they forget how to receive. They become so careful not to harm anyone that they allow themselves to be harmed again and again. And slowly, bitterness grows. Quietly, secretly, because they don't understand why their goodness hasn't saved them. Why life hasn't protected them in return. Why others, who are louder, harsher, more selfish, seem to move through the world with more ease, more success, more recognition. Machiavelli warned of this. He saw that those who try to be good in all circumstances are destroyed by those who are not bound by that same code. Not because goodness is wrong, but because goodness, when disconnected from reality, becomes dangerous. Dangerous not to others, but to the one who carries it. If you don't learn how to protect your goodness, it will be used against you. If you don't learn when to say no, your yes will lose its meaning. If you don't learn to confront, to stand firm, to see clearly, then your virtue becomes your prison. And that is where we begin. Now let's look at how this illusion of goodness takes shape and how it quietly undermines the very people who try the hardest to live by it. We are told from a young age to be good, to share, to say sorry, to be polite, to not make a fuss. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, we begin to equate goodness with obedience, with silence, with self-denial, We learn that to be good is to please others, to be agreeable, to avoid discomfort. Not just our own, but everyone else's too. And at some point, we stop asking whether this version of goodness is true or simply convenient. Because what looks like goodness on the outside, always helping, always forgiving, always yielding, is not always rooted in strength. Often, it is rooted in fear. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of being seen as selfish or unkind. And so we become performers of virtue, not practitioners of it. This is what Machiavelli saw so clearly. That goodness, when turned into a moral performance, becomes a liability. Those who seek only to be liked, to be seen as virtuous, are easily manipulated by those who are not playing by the same rules. In his view, the truly wise person does not abandon morality, but neither are they enslaved by it. They understand when it serves them and when it betrays them. But in our world today, many still live trapped in the illusion of perfect goodness. They say yes when they mean no. They forgive without healing. They offer help even as they collapse under the weight of their own needs. They endure disrespect, dishonesty, and even cruelty, all in the name of being a good person. And the world does not thank them for it, because the world does not see the intention, it sees the boundary. It sees whether you protect yourself, whether you stand up for what matters, whether your goodness is a choice or a mask. True goodness is not the absence of conflict. It is not about being liked by everyone. It is not about avoiding pain. It is the capacity to act from integrity, even when it is uncomfortable, even when it is misunderstood, even when it costs you something. But before we can embody that kind of goodness, we must first see the shadow that hides behind the polite smile, the quiet nod, the endless compromise. Because if we cannot name it, we cannot change it. And that's what we'll explore now. The hidden cost of being good at all times, and how the very thing we are praised for can slowly begin to destroy us from within. In the beginning, the good person is admired. They are the reliable one, the one who listens, who gives, who never asks for too much. People say things like, "You're so understanding," or "We don't deserve someone like you." And for a while, this feels fulfilling. Being needed feels like being loved. Being praised feels like being seen. But over time, something shifts. The same people who once admired their kindness begin to expect it, take it for granted, push its limits. And when the good person finally falters, when they say no, when they express anger, when they draw a boundary, the world reacts with confusion, or worse, rejection. Because no one taught them that goodness, without boundaries, becomes servitude. This is the shadow side of the good person. They forget themselves. They shrink little by little in the name of harmony. They say nothing when something should be said. They stay when they should leave. They forgive what should never have been tolerated. And they call it love. They call it loyalty. They call it being good. But it's not goodness. It's fear. Fear of abandonment. Fear of being seen as difficult. Fear of not being enough without the applause of others. And in that fear, they begin to disappear. Not all at once, but slowly, subtly, day by day. They become emotionally exhausted, yet keep giving. They feel resentment, but bury it. They long to be seen, but never ask for it. And when things fall apart, a friendship, a relationship, a dream, they often blame themselves. Maybe I wasn't kind enough. Maybe I wasn't patient enough. Maybe I should have tried harder. But the truth is harsher. They were never supposed to carry it all. They just didn't know another way. Machiavelli warned that those who try to live by virtue alone will be destroyed by those who do not. Not because virtue is bad, but because the world is not always fair and people are not always kind. And if you cannot see that, if you cannot prepare for that, then your goodness will not protect you. It will expose you. This is the silent destruction of the good person. They're not broken by cruelty. They're broken by the weight of their own silence. By the promise that if they just keep being nice, things will eventually get better. But they don't. Not until something changes. And that change begins with a question. What if your goodness is not the problem, but the way you use it is? What if your loyalty, your kindness, your compassion need a spine? Because goodness without strength is not goodness. It is surrender. Now let's go deeper. Let's look at the origin of this pattern and the transformation that becomes possible when we stop trying to be good at all costs and start trying to be whole. There comes a moment when the disguise begins to crack. When the good person, tired and frayed, begins to wonder why their life feels so hollow, why their kindness has not been returned, why their silence has not brought peace, why their sacrifices have not been enough. And in that moment, they face a truth they've spent years avoiding, that being good is not the same as being whole. Machiavelli understood this long ago. He did not write to encourage cruelty. He wrote to prepare us for reality. He knew that power exists whether we want to see it or not, that people will act from fear, from self-interest, from impulse. And if we do not understand this, we will be devoured by it. The good person must evolve, not by abandoning their values, but by anchoring them in something stronger, not in the approval of others, not in the illusion of moral purity, but in truth, in courage, in the willingness to act, even when it is uncomfortable, even when it is misunderstood. This transformation hurts. It feels like betrayal, not of others, but of the identity you've held for so long. The one who never upset anyone, the one who was always there, the one who kept the peace, even when it cost everything. But to grow, you must let that part of you go. You must mourn the version of yourself that believed love was earned through suffering, that believed silence was strength, that believed goodness meant always saying yes. And in its place, you must build something new, a version of yourself that is both kind and clear, compassionate and fierce, open-hearted and boundaried. This is not the end of goodness. It is its rebirth. Because when goodness is chosen, not out of fear, but out of strength, it becomes unshakable. It is no longer a mask. It is a compass. It guides you not to please, but to protect, not to surrender, but to serve something real, your truth, your purpose, your life. And this is what Machiavelli teaches us, beneath all the controversy and misinterpretation, that to walk through the world with virtue, you must first walk through it with eyes open. You must understand the game, not to play it like everyone else, but so you're not played by it. It is not enough to be good. You must be wise. You must be strong. You must be awake. And that begins now. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you recognizes the truth of what's been said. Perhaps you've seen this pattern in someone close to you, someone whose goodness has become a cage. Or maybe you've seen in yourself the quiet self-erasure, the need to be liked, the fear of being misunderstood, the exhaustion of always being the one who bends, who yields, who keeps the peace, even as it costs you everything. And if that's true, let this be your moment of clarity. There is no shame in having tried to be good, no guilt in wanting to protect others. These are beautiful instincts, but when they come at the cost of your voice, your truth, your strength, they stop being virtues. They become wounds. You're allowed to be good and say no. You're allowed to be kind and walk away. You're allowed to be compassionate and still set boundaries that protect your soul. You are allowed to be soft and strong at the very same time. Life does not wait for you to feel ready. It does not reward sacrifice simply because it hurts. It demands that you show up, not as a version of yourself that others will accept, but as the whole person you were meant to be. Not perfect, not always agreeable, but real. And that is the invitation. To stop performing goodness and start embodying truth. To stop avoiding power and start learning how to hold it with grace. To stop waiting for the world to validate your worth and start becoming someone who can protect it. Now, I want to hear from you. Which part of this message stayed with you? What did it stir in you? Write it down. Speak it aloud. Sometimes, naming what we feel is the first step toward living it. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, someone who's lost themselves in the name of being good, share this with them, not to fix them, but to remind them of their strength. Because goodness is not weakness, and strength is not cruelty. True freedom lives in the balance, and the time to claim it is now.